Hello, everyone. Welcome back to yet another political episode. So we are here again. We're going to talk about it in regards to the Democratic primary. Democrats feel very good, quote unquote, in 2028, and I completely disagree because Democrats haven't even got started with 2028, and we know this because we went through it in 2020. After Joe Biden won the election, the whole base of the Republican Party was still behind Trump, no matter what. Didn't matter what the liberal media said about Trump and people hate Trump. It's January 6th, yada yada yada. People were still behind him. People still liked what he did, and the Republican Party was still magnified. You still saw Trump signs everywhere, and now we have in this case uh, the Democratic Party. We at the time they said that Kamala Harris was more liked in her base than Donald Trump in his base, and that obviously was false. That was incorrect because Kamala Harris, they're throwing her away in the garbage, and obviously I know that I predict this. Kamala Harris will not be the Democratic nominee, and she will not have that same jazz as she did in 2024. The young Kamala fans aren't going to run out and vote for her. Period. Why? Because 4 years later, we know that was fake energy, sponsored and by liberal media, and we know. And I think actually Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez will be the Democratic nominee. Scary, right? But it would be a treat for Republicans if she was. Just as much as I tell my fellow followers that Zohran Mamdani winning the Democratic primary in the New York primary is a treat for Republicans. I get all these socialists coming after me for going after their profit, saying, "No, you're coping," and I'm like, "Why? What? What am I coping about?" It's supposed to be the New Yorkers, and rightfully so. New Yorkers are coping, but other than this is bad for the country, but it's good for the MAGA movement. It's good for the American First movement, because it's going to show off to the world what Democrats are on full display. So Democrats under Zohran Mamdani, if he becomes mayor, and probably will be mayor of New York, he will be showing us the Democratic Party on full display, and the American people will reject it. They thought Kamala Harris was too far left. Take a look at Zohran Mamdani. Take a look at Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. We knew that his nomination to the Democratic primary would only embolden the far left to launch a surge or purge, or whatever you want to call it, in the values of the Democratic Party and make it more far left. And that's why I'm kind of thinking that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez will probably be that nominee. But we got to talk about this Emerson College poll. Previously, back in 2024, actually, we've seen Kamala Harris having a more of a strong lead, 43%, while all the other candidates were in the single digits. In fact, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez only had 4%. Now it's gotten very, very tight because I think a lot of Democrats have accepted the truth that, you know what, Kamala Harris is that weak candidate. As a weak candidate, it didn't matter how much momentum she generated. That momentum was fake. Just like all that excitement, it was fake, and it was in support of the Democratic Party. A lot of those fellow Democrats are also saying that the establishment, the prototype, is just not a good look anymore, and maybe an AOC candidate would be better. And I'm just saying, no, it's not. It's not. It doesn't have to. It doesn't have to be because she's a woman. It's just these women in the Democratic Party tend to be more far left than the men. And I mean, who can be more far left than Tim Walz and Cory Booker and Gavin Newsom? But yeah, understandably, these women have been victimized, okay? They victimized themselves. And then because they've done this, You got people like Harris running on an identity politics platform. AOC, much worse. You get something like that. And if the primaries, or this poll in another case, you'll see in the average, Harris is leading by 7.4%. That's not going to last. I'm telling you right now. Harris is not going to be the nominee. If Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is going to run, she will be the nominee, and I will explain to you how in a little bit. But this is what the map's looking like right now. Harris would win the nomination as of right now, in this kind of clown car here. You'll see she's winning all the rest of the states. However, Gavin Newsom's picking up one state, California. Pete Buttigieg, who is the main competitor in this poll, you'll see Pete Buttigieg beating Kamala Harris by 3 in this Emerson College poll, which is devastating because it already shows you to us all that the Kamala Harris momentum is going down. Then again, they want to find these younger women. They want to find someone else. They realize Harris can't win, and they've chosen AOC, who has gone on a way far left platform. But it doesn't matter. These far left loony women love far left politics. It doesn't matter if it's Marxism or communism. So they're going to embrace AOC. And that's what I'm kind of thinking. And although you got some Democrats in the House congratulating Zoran and even endorsing him, a lot of Democrats are walking away. So obviously, with an establishment lock-in, Harris and Buttigieg, I predict eventually that AOC is going to cut through with the momentum as the 2028 election gets closer, or that those primaries get closer. AOC is going to cut through the lead, probably in the end of, or possibly the end of this year, actually. She'll start leading in the primary polling. And she definitely can. And here is how she's going to do it. Now, I'm going to go ahead and just say let's just do AOC versus Buttigieg. Whoops, never mind. Yeah. So, let's see. AOC is going to likely pick up the green states, okay? These green states are progressive states in primaries, okay? A lot of them are red states. Vermont, Oregon are exceptions. They are pretty blue. But in primaries, they kind of vote together for the said progressive candidate. They were both carried in 2016 by Bernie Sanders. And if Bernie didn't really drop out, and if the Democratic Party wasn't rigged in 2020, Bernie would have probably carried these states handily, and much more. But unfortunately, the Democratic primary in 2020 was rigged. And obviously, that would generate the said momentum against the said establishment. So you got to look at AOC here. Where is she going to perform her best by primaries? First off, she's going to do very good in the big cities. First off, we saw New York. New York proved that AOC could definitely win there. It's not just because Zoran Mondami could win there. It's also the Hispanic Puerto Rican population, huge in New York. She could very much well win there. She could win in Pennsylvania. Then again, there's Puerto Rican Democrats. A lot of them have Lehigh County. I think she's going to win that county handily with the Puerto Rican vote there. Philadelphia. You have also the progressive states over there, but we'll get there in a little bit. But you also have Chicago. You see, and not to mention superdelegation. We'll leave that blank for now. But superdelegation will guarantee go for AOC, because then again, you want to look at the 2016 superdelegate election, or the Democrats abroad primary. You're going to see that the superdelegates, Bernie Sanders is basically the king of the superdelegates, 68%. Why? Oh, no surprise that Europe is so backing of Bernie Sanders. That's because then again, the left back in the left-wing parties in Europe are Bernie Sanders like parties. In fact, they're a little bit more left-wing than Bernie Sanders. In Europe, they think of Bernie Sanders as a moderate. That's crazy. But yeah, that shows how out of touch, but it's also everywhere else. Everywhere else, and you'll see in 2020, that hasn't changed. I predict that's not going to change much in 2028. There was no real anti-establishment candidate. Joe Biden was the president. He's guaranteed going to pick up every contest, but uncommitted, was acted like sort of that populist nominee, mainly for the Palestine effort. And you saw the countries in black. It did cover and carry some countries there. Even Marianne Williamson even carried like Nicaragua and a few other tied countries like Laos. But I'm mainly looking, so she's going to guarantee pick up that. So she's halfway through. She's going to guarantee to pick up 1,480 delegates. You look at probably Massachusetts. You'll see, looking at previous primary results, when it comes to Massachusetts, yes. Yeah, Boston was by Clinton. It was mainly because of the feminine side of the Democrat Party, the woman side of the Democratic Party. They wanted their first female president. She was really near there. But then tides turned. Now it's now of course Bernie Sanders has a hold in said Massachusetts. In fact, it's very, very close. Now you have someone like AOC, a woman of color. You have to do the identity politics, and because that's how the Democrats reason. It's cringe to mention woman of color AOC, but that's how Democrats vote. They vote on race, and she's going to do very well in Boston and over here, and probably over here, and pretty much Massachusetts abroad. I'd probably think she's going to end up carrying that state. DC, I would say the far left would somehow find their way to back them. Maryland, California, it's going to be a bit tossed up. Minnesota, we've seen Hennepin, Ramsey counties. They have gone bonkers off the far left table, although this is a very bad county map. This is the district, reporting districts. But this is a very poor example. Although Hennepin Ramsey were pretty close, you'll see in the said 5th district, it is going solidly for Bernie Sanders. Now it's been 8 years later. I think in Hennepin County, Ramsey County, I think the college students, the leftists, and of course, Minneapolis, St. Paul have gotten very, very, way more crazier that they're probably going to back Ocasio-Cortez. And with that, along with college campuses like in Duluth, big college county, St. Louis County, they're probably going to back Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez there. Hawaii could be backing her. Puerto Rico for sure would be the number one thing she's going to be carrying. You also got Washington, and you got the progressive West, including Colorado, Wyoming, Montana. She's been doing tours over there. Utah is going to be an easy grab for her. So you'll see here, she's almost halfway to the said votes needed to win. Bernie Sanders almost won Texas. That's how much the populist appeal really does work out, although it was 2016. You'll see it's way closer now. You'll see Austin. Houston's a little close here. You'll see the Hispanic voters and possibly the far left Hispanic voters in the state could give AOC the victory and what she needs to be the nominee. So obviously, I do think it's pretty much over. She's pretty much any state that all it takes is, like I said, anything you need to do to win a Democratic primary is free stuff and Trump derangement. And honestly, AOC, she is allegedly going to be the Democrats' leader, But however, the establishment base is going to do what they can to stop her. So when it comes to Trump, though, we got to be thankful for this. The establishment stepped back. They listened to the will of the people. But in 2 primary cycles now, Democrats said no. The establishment said, no, we're going to do it our way. We're going to do our candidates because our candidate's going to win. Your candidate's not going to win. And meanwhile, Democrats continue to spend time with these people, these establishment candidates. They continue to spend time with these silly leftists, and they keep being in bed. They keep digging the hole, and now they're stuck. That's what happens. You clown around, and you found out. But anyway, going back to the polling, Democrats are in a tight battle. None of their choices are good. I'll go over a few. Cory Booker, we know Cory Booker is a discount Obama number 2, and this guy thinks he is going to appeal because he did a 25-hour speech about Trump. And out of everything, you know what I got from this speech? I absorbed and understood how dangerous Trump derangement syndrome can lead. How much and how mentally impacting Trump derangement syndrome can be. This guy talked about Trump for 25 hours. I can't even talk about we all have some people that we don't like, even some people in our personal lives. Imagine talking about that person for 25 hours. That's an illness. That's a mental illness. So Cory Booker didn't make himself to be sort of strong. He made himself to be Trump deranged. Everyone knows it. He's not going to win the primary. He's just so dumb. Pete Buttigieg is not qualified. He has never won a state race ever, other than that Iowa caucus, which he didn't really win. Honestly, I'm going to say that caucus, you didn't win the popular vote, I don't think. But we know for sure if Pete Buttigieg is the nominee, good news for Republicans, because he's unqualified. He hasn't won a state race or an election other than his South Bend mayoral race, which does not count because we're talking about presidency here. But then you have AOC, who is, we'll get to AOC in a bit. Kamala Harris, I told you already that jazz is going to go away as time progresses. People are going to forget the vibes they had under Kamala. Kamala's brat will no longer be a thing. And once she runs, she's going to do the same thing she did in 2020. And she's probably running for California, which if she does, that's good for Republicans because we saw how Kamala Harris performed in California. It's going to have to depend. Gavin Newsom, this guy's trying to come out in a more moderate, centrist establishment tone. That's not going to win him the Democratic nomination. He knows that, so that's why he went unhinged out of the sudden, and we know it's out of the sudden. He was always unhinged. Going on a tangent about Trump sending out the National Guard to stop the LA insurrectionists. And thinking, oh, you're undermining my power, Trump! Give me a break. AOC, eventually going to take the polling. It's not about if, it's about when. She's going to be a gift to Republicans. You're possibly going to see a massive Vance slide if that were to happen, if she wins that nomination. Josh Shapiro. Shapiro with 7%. The far left will revolt against him. He's pro-Israel. He's a Jew. Yada, 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 yada. Even though he may appeal to some sane men, you need that far left base. You need the left base, the leftist base behind you, and you can't get that populist base. They're going to revolt against him for sure. Tim Walz. Tim Sugar Walz. Tampon Tim. Stoller Valor Tim. He's not going to do anything, although Tim Walz is underwater in his own state. He's actually underwater in Hennepin County. A county that he carried by 70%. That's devastating. And in order for Tim Walz to win, he needs to get Hennepin County at least in the upper 60s. And if it's going the way he's going right now, he's probably going to win Hennepin County by like 65, 64%. He's going to lose. So that's good news that Minnesota Republican. You just need a good, competent Republican running a strategic GOP, and then there you go. But anyway, a pretty tight battle, but I do think that AOC is going to eventually cross that line. She's going to take the nomination. She, like Greg Foreman said, the New York primary, Zohran Mamdani, he thinks yes, and I agree with him 100%, although I do have different contrasting views with his. When it comes to this far-left Democrat base, they're going to become emboldened. Some Democrats have said, you know what, let's give this populist far-left thing a chance. That's devastating. And now you have AOC. She's being floated as a candidate. A lot of people are encouraging her to run, and she might because she's seeing these polls. But anyway, what do you guys think in regards to this video? Let me know down below. And as always, I'll see you all in the next political episode.